Lockout Tagout Safety Program, how Plaas Incorporated complies with the LOTO standard. It is the intent of Plaas Incorporated to apply with OSHA's Control of Hazardous Energy Standard 1910.147. The following describes each element which makes up our Lockout Tagout program. Hazard assessment. By analyzing each potential lockout tagout situation, we can develop specific procedures to eliminate hazards associated with energized machines and equipment. The analysis will include the number and types of machines and the sources of energy which pose a hazard. Written procedures. Plaas Incorporated written lockout tagout procedures detail specific procedures to control each form of energy. These procedures cover OSHA's 6 steps to energy isolation, as well as the 4 steps to re-energization. The purpose of these written procedures is to eliminate the possibility of misunderstanding on the part of the employees about what they are required to do. Employee training. The training provided to Plaas Incorporated employees is designed to educate all 3 levels of lockout tagout personnel, authorized, affected, and other. The goal of the training is to eliminate accidents caused by ignorance, carelessness, habit, or complacency. Annual inspection. Plaas Incorporated annual inspection ensures that safe work practices are followed during lockout tagout procedures. All training and or retraining must be documented, signed, and certified. Periodic inspections are required and are to be documented. What is lockout tagout? When you block the flow of energy from the source to the equipment and keep it blocked out, that's lockout. A lockout device is usually a key or lock arrangement that secures a valve, lever, switch, or start button in the off position. Tagout means placing a tag on the power source to warn coworkers and others not to turn the power on. Tags do not provide the physical restraint that locks provide, but they are just as important. You might find one of the following written on a tag: do not start, do not open, do not close, do not energize, do not operate. The information on the tag must include the company name, name of person who put it there, and the date and time the work began, and the type of work being performed. A tag is sometimes used alone when it's not possible to lock out the energy source, or when it has been demonstrated that a tag alone will effectively prevent accidental startup. It's a good idea to use a tag along with a lock for double protection and to provide coworkers with more detailed information about the lockout tagout procedure. Tags should never be treated like locks. They are not to be removed without authorization. Tags are never to be bypassed or ignored. Change is assigned job task. Retraining is required when there is a change in job assignments in machines, a change in the energy control procedures, or a new hazard is introduced. Why is lockout tagout so important? The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, estimates that by following the proper procedures for lockout tagout, the following may be prevented each year: 120 fatalities, 28,000 serious injuries, 32,000 minor injuries. It's very important to remember that lockout tagout rules apply to everyone, not just to the person working on the piece of machinery or equipment. Making any exception to the rules could result in serious injury or death. When to lockout tagout. Knowing when to apply the lockout tagout rules is vital to performing your job safety. The following is a list of several situations that must always include lockout tagout procedures. Please add any specific situations you can think of and add them to the list. When making repairs, when performing routine maintenance, when clearing a jammed or blocked machine, to keep people out of a dangerous area, to prevent the use of equipment by unauthorized persons. You should follow lockout tagout procedures whenever an unexpected startup or release of stored energy could result in injure you or a coworker. Always use the locks assigned to you, your department, or the specific machine. Never rely on a coworker's lock to protect you. Your coworker could remove his or her lock, leaving you unprotected. How to lockout tagout. Before we get started with specific guidelines, we need to first define a few terms. Authorized employees. Those workers who actually perform lockout tagout procedures on the machines and equipment they maintain or service. The authorized employee should ascertain the exposure status of individual group members. Each employee shall attach a personal lockout or tagout device to the group's device while he or she is working and then remove it when finished. Affected employees. Those employees or workers who work in near an area where lockout tagout procedures are applied. Generally, this category includes all workers who do not actually perform lockout tagout. Energized equals machines and equipment are energized when they are connected to an energy source, or 2, they contain residual or stored energy. Energy source is any source, so electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal, or other energy. Servicing and or maintenance. Activities such as constructing, installing, setting up, adjusting, inspecting, modifying, lubricating, cleaning, unjamming, or changing tools on machinery or equipment. All these servicing and maintenance activities are covered under the Lockout Tagout standard, since they can expose a worker to the unexpected energization or startup of the equipment, or to the release of hazardous energy. By following these general guidelines of Lockout Tagout, you will ensure that all energy is in the machine is under control. Each situation that is encountered needs to be addressed with specific procedures. The space that has been provided is to help you identify these specific procedures. Step 1. Turn off the equipment and disconnect the energy source. Notify all affected employees that a lockout procedure is beginning and why. Locate and identify all switches, valves, and other devices that will have to be locked and or tagged. More than one energy source may be involved. Shut the machine down by the normal stopping procedures. Pull the plug, flip the power switch, break the circuit, close a valve, or otherwise neutralize stored energy. Do whatever is necessary to turn the equipment off and disconnect the energy source. Then test the on switch and turn it back to off. Remember, know the machines and the power sources. Some may have more than one source of power. Be sure to connect all sources of power before you continue. Number 2, lockout energy sources. Snap your lock on the control lever or on the multiple lock adapter. Use a lock to prevent the flow of energy from being restored. Test and disconnect to be sure it can't be moved to the on position. Make it impossible for the flow of energy to be reestablished without your knowledge. Flipping a circuit breaker or pulling a fuse is no substitute for locking out. Remember, if you come across a closed valve or a switch that has been turned off but doesn't have a lock, assume that someone has turned it off for a reason. Find out why the source or energy has been turned off before you restore power. Step 3. Tag the disconnect point. A tag provides vital information, extra protection. Make sure your tag has the following information included on it: your name, time and date work began, type of work being performed. Use your own lock. Never borrow or lend your lock to anyone. If you lose your key, report it immediately to your supervisor. Remember, when it's physically impossible to use a lock, a tag is absolutely essential. Step 4. Release residual energy. Zero energy state, placing the machine in a state in which the possibility of unexpected mechanical movement has been reduced to a minimum. Some equipment doesn't run by electricity alone. Hydraulic and pneumatic devices may also be involved. These types of stored energies can present a dangerous situation that is often overlooked. Here's how to protect yourself. Be sure the machine has stopped moving completely before starting work on it. Release stored energy that could cause sudden movement. Block or remove energy in those parts and lock out. Secure locks and movable parts before you begin. Be sure material that is supported or controlled by the machine cannot move or cause the machine to move. Lock out or reduce accumulators and air surge tanks to atmospheric pressure. Also block off all processes, hydraulic, air, or other potential energy sources in piping. Lock all valves, activators, and other flow controls. Don't overlook remote controls such as timers. Remember, chemicals and vapors must also be taken into consideration. Step 5. Test equipment. It's necessary to test equipment to make sure it won't run before working on it. The wrong switch could have been thrown or disconnect switch could be defective, leaving the circuit energized. Turn off the switch or push the start button. Make sure you've successfully blocked out all energy sources. Return the switch to the off position. Remember, be aware of hidden energy sources. Step 6. Restore energy safely. Check for any local lock removal for specific areas or equipment. Check to make sure all tools used for repairs have been removed. Make sure all lines have been reconnected or blocked. Make sure all guards have been replaced. Remove all other workers from the area before taking off lock and tag. Notify all affected people in the area that you intend to turn the machine on. Multiple lockout situations. If your lock is the last one remaining on the lockout device, it's a good idea to check the machine to notify your supervisor before restoring energy. Stay on the safe side. Remember, every one of these steps is important. Follow them every time you have to clean, repair, service, inspect, or clear equipment. Protect your most prized possession, your life. Always follow lockout tagout procedures. Common lockout tagout questions. What should you do if you're working on a machine and the next shift comes in and one of the workers has to finish the job? Answer. In many cases, if a change of shift occurs, the employees coming in must put his or her lock in place before the departing employee removes his or hers. Question, what should you do if the machine has more than one energy source, but you only have one lock? Answer, talk to your supervisor. He or she will provide you with additional locks as required. What should you do if a coworker isn't following lockout tagout procedures? Answer, notify your supervisor immediately and let him or her talk to the employee. The problem must be taken care of promptly before someone gets injured or killed. Question, why is it so important not to use another coworker's lock? Answer, your lock identifies you. Using your lock system safeguards you against the energy source being accidentally turned on if your buddy finishes first and takes a lock off the power source. Question, what should you do if you can't attach a lock to the power source? Answer, tell your supervisor. In some cases, a tag is considered sufficient warning that the power should not be turned on. Lockout Tagout quiz. Number 1, lockout means placing a notice on the power source, blocking the flow of energy from the power source to the equipment, or making sure no one can enter your work area. Number 2, the information on the tag might include the name of the worker who put it there, the date and the time the work began, and the type of work being performed. True or false? Number 3, lockout tagout rules must be followed. A, whenever you clean, repair, or service a machine. B, only when you're on the job. C, if you feel they are necessary. Number 4, if the circumstances warrant it, you can rely on a coworker's lock while you're doing routine maintenance on the machine. True or false? Number 5, the first step in lockout tagout is to A, tag out the disconnect point. B, turn off the equipment and disconnect the energy source. C, lock out energy sources. 6, to lock out energy sources safely, A, pull the fuse or flip the circuit breaker. B, close all valves completely and turn off all switches. C, make it impossible for the flow of energy to be reestablished without your knowledge by attaching a lockout tagout device. Number 7, releasing residual energy may require you to discharge capacitors, ground circuits, bleed lines, or release buildup pressure. True or false? Number 8, true or false, once you've installed your lock on an energy source, your lock must remain in place until the work is completed. Number 9, if you come across a closed valve or switch that has been turned off but doesn't have a lock, you should A, find out why the source of energy is turned on before restoring power. B, assume that it's safe to turn the power on. C, ask those in the immediate area if it's safe to turn the power on. Number 10, when you've completed work on a machine and you remove the lock from your tag, you can immediately start the machine. True or false?